Hi, welcome to myGPcloud. My name is Steve, and I want to show you the standard financial reports that come with your new system. We'll be looking at the standard balance sheet, the standard income statements, and also the report components. Your new system is going to have several standard financial reports already prepared for you. Let's take a look at them. To access them, you go to the Reports definition area here. You can click on that. It's going to bring up the report definitions, and these are merely reports. You can see that we have some balance sheets and some income statements, and also a trial balance. Let's take a look at the balance sheet. Double click on that. It'll bring up the report definition. And now what a typical report is in Management Reporter, it's a combination of a row and a column and perhaps a tree. A tree is a hierarchy that you can use to report on your business's organization, your business's business results, and we'll take a look at that. But let's run the report first. I'm going to change the period to July here. Then we'll run the report, click Generate Report. And this is a standard report. This is an example of the report that we built for you. This has some sample data in it so you get an idea what it looks like. But here you can see a typical balance sheet. We have the accounts that we're pulling from the general ledger. We have assets, liabilities, and then owner equity section down at the bottom. So let's take a look at the components of this particular report. We'll X out of this report here, and let's go and look at the report definition. So on this report here, we specified the base period and the year that we're reporting on, and we used this particular row format and this particular column layout. We can drill back into the row format by clicking on this icon here. And what the row format is, it shows us every row and the description of that particular row, and also the link to the general ledger. So on the right hand side here, you can see which accounts are going to be pulled in for this particular row in this row format. So let's double click on that. It's going to open up this particular window here. You can see that we're looking at one account, 1100, but I can also have additional accounts if I wanted to. In this standard report, we're just pulling information from the GL based on the main segment in the chart of accounts. You can also specify additional segments if you have them in your chart. You can see that each row has a description of that particular row. In this case, these descriptions were pulled in from the chart of accounts, but you can easily overwrite them if you want to. Also, you'll notice we have some summary going on here, some totals. We also have some descriptions that are not related to particular accounts. And then one thing I wanted to show you was on a balance sheet, you're going to have to summarize all the profit and loss accounts to get the net profit for the year. So on this line here, this is row 7150, I can scroll over to the right and see the accounts that it's pulling in. If I open that, if I double click on that, we can see that this row is pulling in information from the summary of account 4000 to 9999, and that's how we're summing up all our P&L accounts to get the net profit and loss for the year. Next, let's take a look at the column layout. If I click on this icon here, it'll pull up the column layout for this particular report. And the column layout basically specifies the period of time that you're pulling in and whether it's a budget or not. And here you can see that we're pulling in a description, and we're also pulling in the actual data. It's going to be based on the base fiscal year and base period, which means it's going to look back to the report definition to pull exactly the period of time that's specified by that report definition. We could easily add additional columns here and specify particular periods in time that were maybe in the past. We could specify budgets. We can also specify quarters, months, year to date. We can get a lot of flexibility in how we define the column layouts, and these are relatively easy to do. We can also specify the level of detail that we want in the reports. We can create just a pure financial report that we just looked at, or we can also include a drill down to the account level and also the transaction level as well. We can also decide whether we want to include provisional data. This would be data that's sitting in a batch, has not yet been posted, or whether we want to show the posted and the unposted together. There are also some additional settings that you might want to look at. We'll go here. You can see that we can not display rows that have no amounts. This is handy once you've got your report together to make sure that you've got all your accounts. And then if there are accounts that are not reporting amounts, you can simply unclick this and those rows will not show up in your report. You can also customize the header and the footer of your reports. You can include images to include on your reports. And you also have some options on the output. We just looked at the report in the management reporter, but you can also output that directly to Excel or XBRL. Let's take a look at another report. We'll look at an income statement here. If I double click on it, it'll bring up the report definition for that particular report. The report's made the same way. It has a row format and a column layout. If we click on this icon here, we'll see the row format for this particular P&L statement. You can see it looks a little different, but I've got rows, I've got descriptions for each row. I have some additional descriptions here and some totals that are being done. If I scroll over to the right, you can see that I'm also looking at the main segment for my P&L statement as well. So you have these standard reports, and what I suggest you do is get familiar with these reports, and then when you want to, you can expand from these reports. And the best way to do that is to save these standard reports as an additional name. So for example, I can go to File, Save As. It'll bring up this dialog box, and I can just make a new report. And now when I do that, it'll be added to my report definitions. I can go into that report now and start modifying it as I want to. I may want to change the row format. I may want to change the column. If you do want to change the row format of the column layout, what you'll want to do is to make another copy of that and rename it. So all you need to do is click on the icon here and then save it under a new name. Let's go to File, Save As. And then use that new row or column layout in your new report. It's really that easy. I really recommend that you get familiar with the standard reports that we supplied for you. And then from there you can modify those by adding new report names, new column names, new row names. And then you can start to begin to really get an understanding of the management reporter, and you can start creating your own reports from scratch. For further information, please follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/myGPcloud.